Kellyanne Nakahara, I think, was... I think it's not actually Kellyanne, because her name, she was... What's her name? No, Kelly Nakahara.
Yeah.
She was a nurse on the TV series MASH for, like, most of its run. And I didn't recognize her until this viewing. I'm like, she looks very familiar. And I looked up, I was like, holy shit, that's Nurse... Whatever the fuck her name is.
Yep.
Can't remember her name, but God, I love that show. According to Lynn, the role of Mrs. White was underwritten in the first draft of the script. When comedy legend Madeline Kahn, famous for Young Frankenstein and Blazing Saddles, became interested in the part, Lynn went back and expanded the role. Good idea.
Yep.
Jennifer Jason Leigh, Demi Moore, and Madonna were considered for the part of buxom French maid Yvette. Eager to earn the part, Colleen Camp went into her audition in a French maid costume. In a 2013 BuzzFeed retrospective, director Jonathan Lynn admitted that although he was impressed with Camp's comedic acting skills, it was her well-endowed figure that ultimately convinced him. There was no avoiding it, he said.
No.
I mean, that's what she was there for, so go for it. You know what I mean? Lynn felt Lee Ving had been forced upon him. I don't know how to say that name, because it sounds, and I'll get to why it's hard for me to say it, and I say it that way.
No, it is Lee Ving. Like, that's his...
Yeah, but I'll explain. You'll know when I get to it. The studio wanted him, Lynn said. He had some big hit record or something. I had imagined somebody rather different, but I said no to everyone the studio requested, so finally I thought, well, I'd better say yes to something. Because Miss Scarlet's dress... This is completely different, sorry. I have no changes here. Because Miss Scarlet's dress was so tight, and costume designer Michael Kaplan dressed her in bone corsets, Leslie Ann Warren had difficulty sitting down while in costume, or really moving around much at all. While the rest of the cast was enjoying games of pool in the billiard room, she was leaning against a board. She says, to rest in that dress was a challenge, so they had slant boards. It's a diagonal board that one can lean against. It's not uncomfortable, and there's armrests, but you can't sit down that much. I spent a lot of time there. I didn't get to play pool.
Aww. I didn't get to play billiards.
Clue was filmed on a soundstage at the Paramount Pictures Film Studios in Hollywood. To decorate the interior sets, authentic 18th and 19th century furnishings were rented from private collectors, including the estate of Theodore Roosevelt. After completion, the set was bought by the producers of the TV series Dynasty, who used it as the fictional hotel, the Carlton. I've watched a little bit of the original Dynasty, and it's fun. I like the remake, too, but I have a problem. It's trash, but it's fun. All interior scenes were filmed at the Paramount lot, with the exception of the ballroom scene. The ballroom, as well as the driveway gate exteriors, were filmed on location at a mansion located in South Pasadena, California. The site was destroyed in a fire on October 5th, 2005. Exterior shots of the Pasadena mansion were enhanced with matte paintings to make the house appear much larger. Lynn, again, I don't know why I didn't cut this up better. So, if I just start not making sense more so than usual, you know why. Lynn wanted a better title sequence. He wanted a creepy opening to set a different tone and then have the movie start. But Paramount wanted a very plain opening to save money. Oddly, again, I'm tired. Just let me complain. Just deal with it. Oddly, the movie wasn't storyboarded. They just took notes of how to film everything. Because it was one large set, they lit and filmed one direction at a time. I.e., in the hall, facing the door, they'd film every shot that was required. Being so far out of sequence, most of the time the cast had no idea what was going on. The head of the studio asked for the dog shit joke.
Yeah, that sounds like a studio note.
Uh-huh.
As they fucking lean on that joke.
But only for, like, the beginning. And then it's never thought of again.
I know, but it overstays its welcome.
It does. Lynn, having never directed a film, didn't know any better, so he put it in. He regrets it and feels that the tone is so far off from the rest of the movie. He's absolutely right. I don't hate the joke at all, but it comes in, it happens, it's not funny, and it doesn't enhance anything.
Yeah.
It just feels very weird.
And it lingers.
And then
a lot like the smell
but when it's gone, it's never brought up again, and you never see a reason for it to exist.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing, because everything else in this movie, you hear one joke, and it's probably brought back, or there's a reason for it, like a half hour later. There's just no reason for it, and it's just very strange. Shooting the dogs, which is always tough, put them behind schedule, and he never caught up. So they tried filming those dogs in the very beginning, never caught back up. So they were always behind. Also, the key. I didn't actually write this down. You know when the key drops?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that took them an hour.
Of
Just
him
to film
throwing?
the key. Yeah,
Oh.
they kept... No, the actual drop of the key. Because of the rain and everything like that, they couldn't get the key to drop in and out of frame. So it took an hour to film that. And I'm like, why the hell is Damian Lynn, or Jonathan Lynn, directing that? Isn't there B-roll somewhere where somebody's doing that while he's filming important stuff? But no, apparently not. Apparently he filmed everything. When the motorist was killed, the shot was much more bloody, but he took it out to get the PG rating. Mrs. White's famous "Flames" speech at the end of the film was improvised by Madeline Kahn. It's one of the only improvisations in the movie. One that they didn't actually know was coming. All of the reaction shots were filmed later, because everybody just started fucking laughing. There is a couple more improv shots, but it's not improv. It was, they asked him beforehand, like, I think it's Mr. Green, when he gets thrown into the bathroom.
Yeah.
And then comes out after flushing into
Using it?
That was
the
him.
washroom?
That was his idea, but he told Jonathan he was going to do it. This one was just, she says something, but she was just, like, literally went off like that. And apparently everybody around her was laughing, but if you notice, they cut to different people because there was no reaction. And I think even, who was it? I think it's Martin Mull, is the only one in the shot. And just as they cut, he's about to break. Because it's just ridiculous. So, here's some dopey facts, because there's a lot about this movie. The color of each character's car is the same color as their playing piece in the game. And I have a reason for that in a minute. The parquet on the floor in the hall resembles the Clue game board. Wadsworth voices the object of the board game after the characters find Mr. Body dead. Wadsworth yells, "That's what we're trying to find out. We're trying to find out who killed him, with where, and with what." All the rooms are in the correct order as they appear in the board game, clockwise. The hall, the lounge, the dining room, the kitchen, the ballroom, the conservatory, the billiard room, the library, and the study, as well as the cellar, a non-suspected area in the game. The secret passages in the movie lead to the same rooms they do in the board game. The kitchen leads to the study, and the conservatory leads to the lounge. The women in the film wear the opposite colors of their namesake. Miss Scarlet wears green, Mrs. White wears black. Lynn purposely didn't put the characters in the colors of their characters because he says they were aliases, so they wouldn't match. The cars matching was a complete coincidence he wasn't aware of until the...
Didn't Mr. Green have a green suit on, though?
I don't believe he did.
Yeah, yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Are you sure it was green?
Yeah.
I felt like it was blue, but whatever.
Even Colonel Mustard's got a bit of a yellow hue to his outfit.
Yeah, but that's not mustard. It was more brownish. It's not necessarily mustard.
I don't know. I'm not a color guy, but I don't know. I'm just saying, there's certain characters,
but
not every character.
He didn't do it on purpose.
Yes.
And the cars matching, he didn't even know until the commentary that I mentioned, which I think was done in 2014. He didn't even know that the cars matched it. He had no idea. So it was not his plan. Professor Plum hypothesizes to the group that the brandy was poisoned. In the original Cluedo board game, poison was included among the possible weapons, but hadn't been in the board game for a while. It was later reintroduced in the 90s game Clue Master Detective, which I remember, actually, when that got brought out. When everyone splits off into pairs, the partners correspond with their proper rolling order of the game. Miss Scarlet, Colonel Mustard, Mrs. White, and Wadsworth. Mr. Green and Yvette, Mrs. Peacock, and Professor Plum. This one's a rumor, but actor playing Mr. Body in the front man of the punk rock band is supposedly chosen because his name is Leaving. Mr. Body will be leaving soon. I don't believe that for a second. However, this one is true, and I never noticed it, and it makes me laugh every time. Professor Plum indicates at dinner that he works for the World Health Organization, part of the United Nations organization, which means he works for you-know-who. I love that way too much.
And he says it so casually.
Yeah.
Like the UN.
Yeah, but he never says UNOWHO. But if you look at it, that's exactly what it is. And it's in that order, so clearly it was meant to be you-know-who. Just absolutely
Whoever wrote
fucking
that,
brilliant.
chef's
Absolutely
kiss.
fucking brilliant. When the film was released, here's the alternate endings portion. When the film was released, it had 3 separate endings, which each theater showing a different ending. Some theaters would even advertise which ending they had to entice people to travel to different theaters for a specific ending. Lin wanted all the endings to be shown in theaters instead, feeling people may not go with the thought that they didn't know which was the real ending. Ultimately, he feels he was right.
I'd be pissed if I had to go to a movie 3 different times on purpose. Not because it was a good movie. Now, granted, something like this, maybe I would see multiple times in the theater because it's a really good movie, but I don't want to have to do it.
Yeah, you don't want to, and you may not, like the next theater you go to may have the same ending you just saw.
Unless,
so you may have to go multiple times.
Although
some of them did, not all of them. Most of them probably didn't care, and this movie probably wasn't in theaters long enough for it to matter. You know what I mean?
Oh well, probably not.
So, it's not something you might want. They planned for months on how to shoot it in certain ways to make sure that if certain characters weren't in the scene, they wouldn't be missed, to make all the endings seem plausible. Spoiler alert, I watched this movie twice this week. I watched it at the very beginning of the week, and I knew I was going to rewatch it again just so I could really... Because this movie is fucking complicated, ironically. So I wanted to make sure I was on the ball. I looked the second time, because I had done the notes by that point. So I looked, and you can tell, but you have to be looking, and you have to know what you're looking for to know who's missing. Because also some of them are missing, and it's just like, you're like, where are they? And they're right there, but you can't tell. It is really insanely well done. This was accompanied by not using too many full cast shots in the scene where characters would and should be missing. In ending B, when it's revealed Mrs. Peacock murdered all 6 people, it was revealed that she was actually shot dead by the chief of police when he confronts her at the car. After saying they got Mrs. Peacock when Wadsworth and the other 5 guests run outside, the chief then turns to Mrs. Peacock's dead body and shoots her again. This was deemed too dark, and Eileen Brennan recorded a new line saying she's the senator's wife, so that Peacock is arrested instead of shot. However, part of the rejected sequence remains in the film. After the police run to Mrs. Peacock to arrest her, you can see smoke in the air from the chief's revolver, as it had recently been fired. A 4th ending was filmed, but Lin removed it because he later said it really wasn't very good. I looked at it and I thought, no, we've got to get rid of that.
Also, 3's enough.
Yeah. In the unused 4th ending, Wadsworth, upset that he's never done anything right in his life, says that he killed Mr. Body as well as the other victims, and then reveals to the guests that he has poisoned them all so that there will be no witnesses, and he will have committed the perfect crime. As he runs through the house to disable the phones and lock the doors, the chief detective, who had been posing as the evangelist, returns, followed by the police, who disarm Wadsworth. Wadsworth then repeats the confession that he had given earlier to the guests, physically acting out each scene himself. When he arrives at the part about meeting Colonel Mustard at the door, he steps through the door, closes it, and locks it, leaving all the guests trapped inside. The police and guests escape through a window, while Wadsworth attempts to make a getaway in a police squad car, only to hear the growling of a Doberman Pinscher in the back seat.
No.
You do not need that.
No, none of that.
No. That is, again, very dark and very weird. So the legacy of this film. The film was initially received with mixed reviews, with Gene Siskel of the Chicago Tribune giving the film 2.5 out of 5 stars, writing, "Clue offers a few big laughs early on, followed by a lot of characters running around on a treadmill to nowhere." Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times gave the film 2 out of 5 star review, writing that despite a promising cast, the film's screenplay is so very, very thin that the actors spend most of their time looking frustrated, as if they'd just been cut off right before they were about to say something interesting.
Buddy.
I don't know.
I don't know what movie you were watching.
I got nothing.
There's enough lines in here to do 1,000 intros. I don't know what you're...
On their TV review show At the Movies, both Siskel and Ebert agreed that the A ending was the best, and while the C ending was the worst, which is hilarious. The actual ending he didn't like.
Yeah, because at the end, here's what really happened.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't understand, because I like the last ending the best. I think the one that this is what really happened is the best ending. The novelization, which I have read, was written by Michael McDowell. There was also a children's adaptation entitled Clue the Storybook, written by Landis Lynn and Ann Matthews. Both adaptations were published in 1985 and differ from the movie in that they feature the above-mentioned 4th ending cut from the final film. The movie was released to home video in VHS format in Canada and the United States in 1986.